that Eazy told Seaweed to test our gangster.
That has nothing to do with y'all. This is me and Dre. I don't even know why everybody else got in it. You know what I'm saying? He was like, but this is something between me and him.
We found out, you know, Death Row was having the concert in Cleveland. And you know, we was in Cleveland. We was living like, what? Y'all gonna book a Death Row show in Cleveland and y'all know we from here? We was like, oh, it's going down. Yeah, Eazy did say leave the beef alone, but you know, we was hard-headed.
Bone Thugs and Harmony's journey to the top wasn't just about their skills. It was about proving they had what it takes, over and over. One of the first big tests, Eazy-E. After bringing them onto Ruthless Records, Eazy sent them on a mission that would become a game changer. Enter Seaweed, a street figure, 60s Crip legend, who had Bone Thugs questioning if they were cut out for this life. But instead of backing down, they stood firm. They were all in for Eazy, no matter what. This wasn't just about business. It was a loyalty test, a street survival challenge. Eazy wasn't just scouting for talent. He needed warriors who had the stomach for this life. And Bone Thugs, they nailed it.
I mean, but see, we expected it though, because we cared ourselves like that. You know what I'm saying? Like we let everybody know. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we talk it, we gonna walk it too. Like,
these guys have some insane stories. Flash forward to a wild night in Cleveland when the tension between Ruthless and Death Row was at its peak, and Bone Thugs found themselves right in the middle of it. Word got out that Death Row was throwing a show in their hometown, and Bone wasn't about to let that slide.
Death Row concert in Cleveland, and this when all the beef was going down, and it was wild. We ended up going to jail that night. It's crazy.
Then the chaos hit. Cops showed up, helicopters buzzing overhead, and the crew got surrounded. Things escalated fast. It was straight out of a movie. Bone Thugs ended up cuffed and tossed in cop cars, with Wishbone even getting hit with a gun charge, though the rest of the crew managed to walk out clean. But the story didn't end there. After a couple of days in jail to let the heat die down, they walked out with no charges, just a reminder of the kind of drama that comes with being in the middle of rap's biggest beef. So back in the early 90s, Bone Thugs and Harmony were just a bunch of hungry dreamers hustling their way out of the tough streets of Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland wasn't exactly the place people thought of when it came to hip-hop, so breaking through must have felt like climbing a mountain barefoot. Originally rolling under the name Bone Enterprise, the crew was made up of Lazy Bone, Crazy Bone, Busy Bone, Wishbone, and Flesh and Bone. These guys weren't just a group. They were practically family, tied together by friendship, loyalty, and one big goal: turning their rap dreams into reality.
It's still unbelievable, you know what I mean? We didn't have Eazy that long in our lives, you know what I'm saying? So it's like this superstar showed up, man, gave us everything we needed to.
What made Bone Thugs and Harmony stand out was their sound. It wasn't like anything the rap game had heard before. Crazy fast, tongue-twisting bars mixed with smooth melodies. Their songs hit hard, talking about life in the streets, struggles, and just trying to make it. But they did it with a style that felt like it came from another planet. It was raw and real.
And I try so hard, I'll always be a victim of history.
Even with all that talent, getting noticed wasn't exactly a walk in the park. Cleveland wasn't known for cranking out rap stars, and finding someone in the industry who'd give them a shot felt next to impossible. They were broke, fed up, and laser-focused on breaking out of their situation. That kind of hunger made them fearless. So when they caught wind that Eazy-E, the legend behind gangster rap and Ruthless Records, could be their big break, they didn't hesitate. They bet everything on that shot.
You know, sustain our families and our craft and what we want to do.
They scraped together every penny they could for a one-way bus ticket to LA. No plan, no backup, just a dream they weren't willing to let go of. But getting to LA was only half the battle. It wasn't like they could just stroll into Ruthless Records and walk out with a deal. Their game-changer moment came when Crazy Bone got Eazy-E on the phone and dropped a freestyle right then and there. Eazy was hooked. He could feel their raw energy and unique sound through the receiver. Next thing they knew, he invited them to meet in person. That meeting sealed the deal, and Bone Thugs and Harmony officially joined Ruthless Records.
What crazy bomb, this book bucking the once again. The suckers, they pick up their pen and they try to contend, but say go that they win. It's dead Mac 10, it's blasting.
The boys had apparently grown up rapping along to NWA, and suddenly, there they were, cruising in a Benz with him in 1993. Imagine 6 dudes crammed in the car looking around like, wait, is this for real?
All 6 of us riding in a 600 Benz in 1993, you know,
nice.
Looking to the left and looking around the car like, damn, man, that's easy.
The funniest part, the guys couldn't stop laughing about how short he was, but he carried himself like a king. And don't even get us started on his green energy. Let's just say Eazy was ahead of the curve when it came to keeping things eco-friendly, though his version of green was more about, recreational creativity.
He was going green way before anybody else.
He always had the bomb. I don't know what he was doing to it. He was doing something to it in that little room.
Apparently, he had this room that was basically a grown-up candy shop. There was a huge bowl on the table, not with lollipops or M&Ms, but with pre-rolled treats of all kinds. Chocolate wraps, fancy papers, you name it, it was there. It wasn't just a stash, it was a whole vibe, without calling it that.
Incredible.
Yeah, we used to have this big candy bowl in a juice bowl in the middle of the table with like 500, 600 rolled chocolate joints up in there. It was amazing, man. It was
Eazy didn't just roll with them. He made them feel like stars before they even made it big. From the licorice paper details to cash hidden in hats, his whole experience was unforgettable. For Bone Thugs, Eazy wasn't just the guy who signed them. He was the one who believed in them when no one else did.
Eazy-E is he'll forever be a superstar rapper while we was young kids rapping all NWA parts, you know what I mean? He'll forever be that.
One memorable moment in Bone Thugs and Harmony's journey with Eazy-E happened when they met Seaweed, a member of the notorious 60s Crips. At first, Seaweed wasn't buying into the hype. He straight up called them out, questioning if they were really about that life. To earn his respect, Bone Thugs had to prove they weren't just a bunch of talk. After a bit of back and forth, they showed they had the skills to back up their words, and that was enough to earn Seaweed's stamp of approval.
So I think that Eazy told Seaweed to test our gangster.
After that tense moment with Seaweed, the boys rolled into a photo shoot with Eazy, and it felt like a major shift in their journey. But even though the shoot seemed pretty chill, there was still some tension in the air. The whole Seaweed situation was still on their minds. The night didn't end with the shoot. They all hit up a party afterward, but the mood stayed pretty uneasy. You could still feel the gang drama lingering, and it was clear that even though they were starting to make moves, the world they were stepping into was no joke.
He like, look, you little n***, you little I think y'all gonna do like the rest of them did then, like Ice Cube, like Dr. Dre. Once you were Ruthless Records, you were Ruthless for life.
The whole backstory between Seaweed and Eazy was all about street rep and gang ties, which were major in LA back then. Seaweed, a big name in the 60s Crips, was a known figure in the tough spots around the city. Eazy, on the other hand, had his foot in the street scene but was aiming for bigger things in the music biz.
Now, Seaweed was a gangbanger. He was one of Eazy-E's homeboys from way back in the day, right? I mean, way back in the day.
Now, you know the 90s was that era when the streets and the rap game were basically one and the same. It wasn't just about spitting bars or dropping bangers. It was all tangled up in street politics, beefs, and power plays that went way beyond the mic. The streets had a serious impact on the music, and the music, it fed back into the streets. Take the Ruthless versus Death Row beef. This was the perfect example of that messy mix of street drama and music business chaos. At the center of it, Eazy, the kingpin behind Ruthless Records, and Dr. Dre, who once rolled with Eazy but was now making moves with Suge Knight and Death Row. Eazy wasn't just the godfather of gangsta rap. He was a legit street legend who knew how to move in both Compton and the music biz. He didn't just make dope albums, he built an empire that set the stage for West Coast rap as we know it today. Ruthless Records was his kingdom, and under his watch, it birthed some of the most iconic and controversial tracks of the 80s and early 90s.
And when I finish, it's gonna be a bloodbath of cops dying in L.
But what made Eazy-E stand out wasn't just his rapping. He was a serious businessman who understood the game. He knew how to take risks, make deals, and find talent that would blow up, like Bone Thugs and Harmony. But no one had a bigger impact than the group that put Eazy on the map, NWA. But once Dre and Cube dipped out, things started to crumble. The tension wasn't just business, it was personal. Loyalty, trust, and money were all on the table. First, Ice Cube bounced in '89. He was pissed about how little he was getting paid compared to the impact he was having on NWA's success. Cube dropped the savage diss track No Vaseline, a direct shot at Eazy, and one of the coldest disses in rap history.
Move straight out of Compton, living with the whites, one big house, and not another.
Then, in '91, Dr. Dre left too. Dre was frustrated with the direction of NWA and the way Eazy was handling business. Dre wanted more control, and when that didn't happen, he started his own label, Death Row Records, with Suge. Death Row quickly became a major player, and Dre's album The Chronicles set a whole new tone for West Coast rap. Not only was he losing his two closest collaborators, but the whole NWA empire was falling apart. It wasn't just about music, it was about respect, power, and who controlled the West Coast. After Dre and Cube split, the beefs escalated quickly, and as the stakes got higher, the tension spilled into the streets. Eazy called Dre a sellout and questioned his street cred. This wasn't just about music anymore, it was personal. Things got even crazier when Suge entered the picture. The tension between Ruthless and Death Row wasn't just about labels, it was about survival, respect, and who had the streets. Artists were forced to pick sides, including Bone Thugs and Harmony, making everything more complicated. The guys were right in the middle of the chaos, with Eazy acting as their mentor and Ruthless Records being their home base. Bone had a deep bond with Eazy. But with the growing tension between Ruthless and Death Row, Bone got swept into the bigger beef. Being tied to Eazy meant they were automatically tied to the Ruthless side of things, and that put them in the crossfire of the war for West Coast supremacy. Things were getting heated when word spread that Death Row was throwing a concert in their hometown, and Bone wasn't having any of it.
Death Row concert in Cleveland, and this when all the beef was going down, and it was wild. We ended up going to jail that night. It's crazy.
Things got real when Bone pulled up to the hotel where the show was going down. That's when they ran into Don King's daughter, who was promoting the event. She was freaking out, warning Bone that if anyone from their crew showed up at the arena, she'd cancel the whole thing and bounce. Obviously, that didn't sit well with them, so they left the hotel pissed off, ready to stir things up.
We was pissed. Like, what? Y'all gonna book a Death Row show in Cleveland and y'all know we from here? We was like, oh, it's going down.
A few minutes later, things went from 0 to 100 real quick. The cops showed up, helicopters buzzing overhead, surrounding their cars.
Police came from, I'm talking about helicopters came from up under the bridge, and the cars came from everywhere. Like, they swarmed us like, get out the car.
Yeah, you could feel the tension in the air. Wishbone, sitting up front, had a gun chilling on his lap. The second he stepped out of the car, the gun slipped and hit the pavement. It was like a scene straight out of an action flick. Cops pulled out their weapons, ordered everyone to hit the ground, and found 2 more guns stashed in the car. Things got pretty wild, real fast. The crew got cuffed, tossed in the back of cop cars, and even though Wishbone had to pee like crazy, the officer was like, "You're on your own." So Wishbone, yeah, he just handled it in the back of the car. Awkward. After all that, spent a couple of days in jail. Not a single charge, just to let the drama chill out. Wishbone got hit with a gun charge, but the rest of the crew, they walked out scot-free.
Wish was like, I got to use the bathroom, officer. And the officer was like, pee on yourself. And he did it, right in the back of his car.
So this whole mess was going down while Dr. Dre was starting to pull away from Death Row. But Tupac? Nah, he was all in. He hopped on the radio, straight up calling out Bone like, "What's good with y'all? Thought y'all were about to roll up on us. Let's link up." The drama between Ruthless and Death Row wasn't just about throwing shade on radio and on tracks at this point now. It was straight up street warfare. The rap game turned into a battleground where music, egos, and street politics all clashed, and it got real ugly. This wasn't just about one-upping each other in the studio. It was about who had the power, who had the respect, and who could make it out alive. While the industry saw it as just 2 labels beefing, the streets were on a whole different level of crazy. By the early 90s, the East Coast-West Coast beef was at its peak, with artists from both sides of the country throwing shade and raising the stakes. On the East, you had Bad Boy Records and Biggie holding it down. On the West, Death Row and Suge Knight were running the show. And if that wasn't enough drama, the tension between Ruthless and Death Row just added more fuel to the fire in this epic coast-to-coast showdown. Tupac and Snoop, the heavy hitters of Death Row, got pulled right into the chaos. And let's just say, they didn't exactly sit on the sidelines. Pac, being Pac, was super loyal to Death Row and didn't hide his feelings about Eazy or Ruthless. To him, Eazy was a total sellout for how things went down with Dre leaving. But as things heated up, even Eazy couldn't guarantee his own safety. Word on the street was that he might have been facing threats. Whispers about drive-bys, club brawls, and run-ins between Ruthless and Death Row folks were everywhere. And with the East Coast-West Coast drama reaching a boiling point, the streets of LA became a battlefield. Gangs like the Crips and Bloods, along with other crews, were dragged into the mess, either taking sides or just adding fuel to the fire. There were rumors flying about people getting handled, and everyone in the game was on edge. Artists, producers, execs, you name it, they all had to watch their backs. And with gang affiliations being such a big part of the scene, things got messy. The lines between music, street life, and the law blurred so much that no one could tell who was really safe anymore. This was the wild, wild west. Bone Thugs and Harmony were smack in the middle of all this drama. Whether they were on tour or just out and about, someone was always trying to call them out.
If you bold enough to run up on us in our face and say something like about us, then I mean you must be ready to go. Like, bottom line, that and that's just how it was, man.
One time, a random guy literally begged Lazy Bone to listen to his demo tape, so Elzhi gives it a shot, only to find out the guy's lyrics were dissing Bone Thugs in Lazy's car. The audacity, right? Let's just say that situation didn't end well for the dude.
Lazy was like, yo man, I started beating the dude's in my car because he got his tape playing in my car.
And then there were the cities where folks would try to run up on them, just to see if they were as real as their lyrics claimed. It wasn't just words, they had to back it up. Whether it was defending themselves or setting boundaries, they made it clear they weren't faking anything.
I mean, but see, we expected it though, because we cared ourselves like that. You know what I'm saying? Like we let everybody know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we talk it, we gonna walk it too. Like.
That authenticity earned them respect, even from people they clashed with. Sure, there were beefs along the way, but when you show you're not about empty talk, people start seeing you differently. At the end of the day, playing pretend with a gangster persona is risky business. The real ones know it's not just a story, it's a life with real consequences.
Yeah, Eazy did say leave the beef alone, but you know, we was hard-headed. We wasn't listening.
Eazy made it super clear to the boys though. This isn't your fight, it's between me and Dre. He didn't want his team caught up in the chaos, and he kept them focused on their music. Sure, there were a few run-ins with Death Row folks here and there, but it never turned into anything major.
Anyway, he was like, that has nothing to do with y'all, this is me and Dre. I don't even know why everybody else got in it. You know what I'm saying? He was like, but this is something between me and him.
They let him know straight up. If stuff goes down, we're with you. No questions. Studio or streets, we got you. They were young and fearless, and that's a pretty potent cocktail, as we know.
A song or in person or whatever. So like, you know, we was young, dumb and ready, for real.
Now, as for Eazy's feud with Dre, it ran deep, no doubt. But some of it felt pumped up for attention. Some like Death Row playing it up to make themselves look bigger. If Eazy and Dre had sat down and hashed things out, it probably could have been squashed. And about that supposed beef with Ice Cube, that wasn't as serious as people thought. One time, Eazy and Cube bumped into each other in New York at this spot called Tunnel. And guess what? They shook hands, kept it chill, and even talked about maybe working together down the line. Sadly, Eazy passed away before any of that could happen.
I think that beef was real deep with E at Death Row. But I mean, I think it was escalated a lot by, you know, like Suge and people over there just to get the hype up and to build Death Row as a label.
Was he the king of hip-hop? Maybe not, but he had the respect of those who really knew the game. And here's a little fun fact. Some folks in the scene were out here renting flashy houses to flex in music videos. Eazy? Nah, he was about keeping it real, showing the world how he was really living. Eazy was also on a mission to prove he wasn't the kind of guy to mess people over. Bone Thugs saw it up close. They remembered him breaking down his plans while they were stuck in random hotels, broke. We were sitting there like, yo, if we're gonna go hungry, we might as well do it back in Cleveland where we can hustle. Not long after, Eazy sat them down and laid out his whole vision for reviving Ruthless Records. Then came the twist no one saw coming. In 1995, Eazy-E's sudden death from AIDS-related complications shocked the industry. But even now, people side-eye the official story. Bone Thugs, along with Eazy-E's son, Lil Eazy, have openly questioned it. How did none of his kids, partners, or even his mistresses test positive? And why did his health tank so fast? Here's what really makes people think twice. Most people with AIDS show serious signs as their health declines. But Eazy? He looked like his same energetic, stocky self right up until he was in the hospital. Bone Thugs have hinted at foul play, some even throwing around theories about an intentional injection. Eazy's death is still one of hip-hop's biggest question marks, but one thing's crystal clear. His impact is untouchable. He gave Bone Thugs and Harmony their big break, and they didn't just take it, they ran with it, creating a sound that would shape the game for years to come. Bone Thugs still carry that story with them, the grind and the heartbreak of losing a legend, a legacy that refuses to fade.